Hi everyone. Uh, First of all, before I start, I just want to thank you, Beacon, for having me here. It's such a great honor and privilege to be here on the stage. My name is Maciej Gliwa. I am a developer and an artist, and I'm also a creator of an add-on that I'll be talking about today. It's an add-on called Vision, and basically it's a tool set for myself to help me visualize narrative sequences using either 2D techniques, 3D techniques, a combination of both, kind of tool set to help me with like storyboarding and previz kind of together. A few words about myself. If I can describe myself again, I am a professional artist who can code. So I kind of went to college and got a degree in computer science kind of by accident. But my professional career was always related to art. So I started as a character animator at DreamWorks. I animated on a bunch of movies. And then eventually I changed and transitioned a little bit to a different role. I started to work as a story artist at Lucasfilm on some Star Wars stuff. And then eventually I became an episodic director. So throughout my career, I kind of did work doing different roles. And about 2 years ago, I kind of started to think about like what would be the best way for me to visualize my own ideas with the stuff that with my kind of current skill sets. So I was not interested in visualizing from like start to finish, but I was more interested in kind of like pre-production kind of stuff. So, a few things that I was looking for were I wanted a process that is really fun. It's just really enjoyable. I wanted to be able to stay in a creative flow. So I didn't want to spend time doing anything that was not creative or was a distraction from that creative flow. I thought that I would need some kind of a minimal UI. I didn't want to deal with like clutter on my screen with stuff that I don't use. And I really wanted it to work well on Cintiq, like a monitor tablet. And I wanted to be able to use live action workflows. So that led me to Blender, which at that time I already knew quite well. I used it in production, and it was kind of like an obvious choice for, obvious reasons, because as we all know, Blender can do so much for you. It's like the Swiss Army knife, right? But the biggest thing for me was that not only I got all these different components that I wanted to use, but also it has a fantastic Python API and amazing community. So as a developer new to Blender, it's really easy to get the knowledge and learn from other people. But I ran into some issues. So I think that Blender has like a perfect interface given how much you can do with Blender. But in my specific case, given how much I wanted to do with it, I started to run into some challenges that was mostly related to the mileage, like UI mileage. Like there was like to do what I wanted to do, there was like a lot of clicking, a lot of like hunting for different properties, different options, and so on. But I was also missing a few things in Blender. Like, for example, the scene management in my case would be fairly difficult because I would have so many different shots per scene, and I wanted to have many shots per scene. I wanted to use scene as a container for a sequence, not just a singular shot. And there, I didn't have like a real integration with external NLE, like DaVinci or Premiere. And there was no real clear shot management on a scene level in Blender. And I had just a bunch of ideas using Blender, how it would work for me with my specific workflow. So I thought, okay, what if I just make an add-on? So there were other add-ons already on the market that maybe would do things that would do what I wanted, but not everything. And I just wanted to have like a full control how that would work. So I decided to make add-on myself. And I had like very simple principles how I would approach it, which is bring to the surface what I need. By the surface, I mean bring to the screen, right, on my Cintiq. Hide what I don't need and add new features, things that I was kind of missing. So I started, with a very simple add-on called GP Tools, which eventually became Vision GP, which is basically like an interface to help with grease pencil and 2D work. I developed another add-on called Vision Shots that was giving me that shot management stuff. And eventually I decided to combine all those two and create Vision, which is the add-on that I will show you today. So just to illustrate the issue that I had with Blender, let's see, this is like a kind of typical Blender layout with like some scene and some assets. By the way, shout out to Big Medium Small, a great company to get your assets for your stuff. Outliner would be the editor that I would use so much, and it's great. It's fantastic to organize your scene. But I started to run into certain kind of issues with it, which was I had to create all those different collections, name them, rename them, move stuff around, put things in different collections, turn things on and off, stuff like that. So I realized that I spent a lot of time just like navigating Outliner, and that was not exactly the creative thing to do. It was really purely scene management kind of stuff. So that was like one issue, and I was asking myself, can I not do that? Is there a way to not do this at all? And the second one was the high frequency properties. So to me, high frequency properties is something that I use like 100,000 times a day, and I just want easy access to it. And Blender interface, again, is super nicely organized, but because there's so much that you can do with Blender, quite often the properties that you would use would be nested in a tab within a tab among properties that you actually might never touch. So I kind of build like this UI layer on top of Blender. So I still wanted to be able to use Blender as is, but I also wanted to have like a UI layer on top of it that gives me the high frequency stuff that I use organized in these little different groups. So if any of you try to use my add-on Vision GP, this might look familiar. Basically, this is all the stuff that is all the time, like all the time. There's no stuff that I don't use here. And not only this, just like simple access to things, but there's a lot of automation going on as well. So for example, I can, if you look at this create G pencils group, there's just one button to create a grease pencil that is exactly set up the way I want, with the layers I want, with the materials I want. It can be automatically printed to the camera, and all I have to do is just like click that one button. So there's a lot of stuff like that here. So I thought like, okay, what would be the best way to kind of like explain Vision to you in simple terms? And I have only 20 minutes to show you as much as I can. So I thought, okay, I'm going to prep like a little sequence to demonstrate like a step-by-step process. So starting, with assets. So for this little sequence, I thought I'm going to have this girl meeting this dragon in the cave. That's kind of like a very simplistic like little scene. So I got some assets from Megascans. I purchased some rocks, and I used them to, I combined them together to build like a little simple cave. And this is like, kind of pre-production stuff. So I don't need it to be like too overly complex. And then I purchased like some characters from, I believe, CG Trader that I rigged in Rigify. Again, it's Swiss Army kind of thing. Blender has Rigify. You can activate that add-on. It's really easy to use. It is pretty fast, and it's all I need for my purposes. So once I have the assets, now I can really play with them and start using this live action workflow. So the next stage is called stage play and set scouting. And this is where to me, process is everything. I want it to be as fun as possible. And that stage is basically like playing with toys. So, I'm like in my 40s, but I feel like I can play with G.I. Joes. And that's the process that was used by the greats of the cinema, right? So they would use, in this case, miniatures to plan their scenes. But what they are doing really is just like moving characters around and finding out, where am I going to place my camera? Like, why am I going to place there? Like, you just can plan ahead before you start shooting stuff for real. So you can replicate that process in Blender, right? So here's an example of kind of a stage play that are already blocked out. So I have this girl, like she's not animated. The point here is not to really animate this stuff. It's just really figure out the choreography. Where is she gonna be at what point in time? Because it feels like I'm playing with toys, so I can have that creative flow. I can just let myself find those like different happy accidents. I let 3D drive a lot of my decision making and find all those different things. So for example, you see I have this dragon. It looks like it's animated, but it's really not. It's just like one pose with some, cycle on the wings. By the way, shout out to the developer of Animation Layers. Like, it's a great add-on for Blender to do this kind of stuff. And of course, we have also Eevee, so I can drop in just few lights and very quickly kind of see the mood of the scene. And again, all of that stuff is for me to find things. Like nothing is pre-planned here. I'm just like searching for options. Like, how am I gonna place my characters? Where am I gonna place them? What kind of cameras I might use? Where am I gonna place that camera? And so on. So it's very much like being DP on a live action set, pretty much. And once you have that, that's when vision really comes to play, because now you can start dropping your cameras and creating your camera setups. So I'm going to show you like how easy it is with vision to just create shots in a scene. So you see, like, I don't want to have a shot per scene. I want a scene with as many shots as I want. So I created a simple UI for myself where basically I bring to the surface like all these properties that I use a lot. And I have a simple UI to just create this different camera setup. So with just one click, I create a shot which creates a camera, which creates its own in and out points. You know, in Blender, your in and out points are basically per scene, but I want it to be per shot. So now you have that control. I can easily access focal lengths. And what is amazing that you don't see here, under the hood, I create like an entire structure under the hood of collections, and they're properly named. Everything is automated, so I don't have to worry about dealing with anything in Outliner. I can only focus on the creative stuff. So in this case, I just want to, animate my camera. I want to find that angle. I want to see what am I gonna in this particular shot. And that's where my mind is. Like, it's not focused on anything like technical or scene management related, so to speak. So again, you just kind of play with it. And because it's so not, you don't have to commit to it. You can just try a bunch of different shots and see what makes the most sense. And just fast forward a little bit, you see, like, now I just added a bunch of different camera setups. So I can, I have my stage play. I know where the characters are, and I can just start playing with it. Like, okay, in this moment, I need a shot from here to here. And you just kind of look for those shots. Where do they make sense? And what is awesome is that I can have long in and out points. So I can make shots that are like master shots, which they cover like the entire sequence, entire action. So it's not like I'm just covering like a section of a scene. I can literally cover the whole thing. And this is exactly what happens if you think about it on a live action set. You have cameras, you just roll it, and they get the coverage of entire take, with actors doing their thing and so on, right? So this is basically the same principle, and vision kind of lets you think this way, in the more like a live action terms. So yeah, I just have here like a bunch of shots, just exploring that scene. Now, once I have that, and usually that happens while you're doing stage play too. Here, I really kind of trying to show you step by step. But you kind of do your stage play and you drop in your cameras at the same time. You're trying to figure it out as you go. So once you have that, now you have like kind of like two options, okay? Like, you can either start making play blasts and putting your cut together in a video sequencer in Blender, or you can kind of put them together in real time, which I will show you later. So let's start with, play blast workflow, which I kind of developed first. So, this is video sequencer, presented actually before on many talks at Beacon. It's kind of similar, but I expanded functionality a little bit here. So first of all, you can make those play blasts with metadata that gives you like a ton of information about your shot, take, and so on. Everything when you render it is properly named. It's, again, this is like scene management stuff. I don't want to deal with it too much. So everything is named for you correctly, and you don't have to worry about that. It's just all automatic. And then you can go to any clip you want. And we remember every time you render that particular shot, you can access that take and change it, kind of like on the fly. And because Blender, it's all in Blender 3D software, I can go back to any shot that I used in my cut because everything is connected. I don't need to go to like external software. I can just stay in Blender for like majority of my work. But sometimes you kind of need to use external video editing, especially if you work like in a studio and you actually have editorial department. You have editors who maybe use DaVinci, Avid, Premiere. what have you. And here you see I can export the whole sequence, and it gives me, again, automatically this entire setup, like a folder with all the media that was used by me, reference video, and XML in that case, but Vision will also support OTIO. And then here we just have DaVinci, and you see, like, so now I'm, let's say, editor. I can import all of that media. I can get in this entire sequence in DaVinci, and now I can work on it. DaVinci using like all the stuff that DaVinci comes with, like, for example, color grading and so on is nicely integrated there. But the point is that now editor can use their software. It doesn't have to be DaVinci. They could use Premiere. They could use, Avid too. They can do some changes to the sequence, do whatever they need to do, and they will do a lot. They will, add shots, remove shots, move audio around, and so on. So they can do a lot. And this is actually really cool to see. I'm gonna give them coverage. So now they can work like live action editors. It's not like, oh, I just have a shot that was storyboarded from here to here and that's all I get. You can provide editorial with a lot of coverage so they can have a lot of room to play with and find a sequence on their level as editors. And the next cool thing about it is that they can... Oh, I got 3 minutes left. They can send it back to me. So I can import from editorial and get their sequence with their changes. And again, it's just kind of like a click. Like, it's not like some complex, like, go import, find the file, import it. Like, it can be really automated, can be really, really quick. So that's one option. But then you can do a lot of that stuff in real time. And this is what my latest thing that I have been developing. So I have 3 minutes left. It's a lot of truth. Okay, as much as I can about it. I wanted to be able to not make play blasts. I wanted to be able to make those cuts actually directly in Blender. So for that, I created like this little timeline that you can see there. And you see the timeline is connected to all those camera setups over there. So I can, whatever the setup I click there, I can see it on the timeline. Also, you see, I show you outliner intentionally to show you that, everything is automated. I pick the shot, it automatically turns on and off proper collection. And you see there are collections within collections where I can put stuff on a shot level. So for example, if I want to have lights just in this particular shot, I can place them in a specific collection that is already there for me. And what is cool, I created like this extra mode that allows you to put your cut together without making any play bus at all. So you see there's all these like colorful clips. They basically are placeholders for your cameras. So you can basically say, okay, from here to here, I want to use that particular camera. And then from here to here, I want to use that camera. And it gives me this very simple UI that is directly in 3D view. And I can kind of work like I would in the video editing software, even though I don't have any playbus whatsoever. And I can, zoom on like one shot, isolate it, or I can work in this edit, and then I can start doing things like you would in editorial. For example, I can change the clip. So I just changed the camera up there. Now that clip is going to use completely different camera setup. And then I can, go forward maybe a little bit. And then I can split that clip into two. And I actually want to cut back to the same shot. So it's pretty easy for me to do. I just have a bunch of buttons. Again, they're on the surface level. I don't need to look for them. I know exactly where they are. I can develop my muscle memory. So it's like the interface kind of disappears in a way because I know where things are. So I want to also show you the 2D, since the presentation is about 2D and 3D. And I'm going to show you production examples. So Vision is already being used in production. And the best person to show you stuff is Ravi. Shout out to Ravi. Where are you? Right there, this guy. I could not do Vision without him. He is my angel. He kept my sanity intact, during the development of Vision. Amazing artist. Just look him up. He has been the power user of Vision, the main tester of the tools, and we talked so many times like, what's the best way to do things? So yeah, couldn't do it without him. And he's working currently as a creative director at a company called Agora Studio, and we got their permission to show you some of the work that he did for them, also some of his personal work, and I will let Ravi tell you how he uses Vision.
I've been using Vision for Blender for over a year professionally, doing storyboarding, animatics, and previz work, but I mainly use it for hybrid 2D and 3D workflows. What I love the most is that Vision automates so much under the hood for me. I love, for instance, having templates for my grease pencils and automatically jump from a stroke layer with a line art to a fill layer with the color and shadows already set up. For my hybrid work, I tend to rough out thumbnails in 2D, then have a 3D layout, and then start pinning my drawings to the CG rigs underneath to rough out the right scale and placement of my characters with accurate camera staging and lenses and all that stuff. And I can go fast with the toolsets in Vision to help me align and pin my drawings in the angles I want. I can still create 2D panels constraining my drawings to the camera, only using the set as a background reference. I tend to use the Shot Contents Manager a lot to organize my scene elements in different categories, and I can also create elements only to show in one particular shot and not affect the others, so I can really art direct a specific composition. I go between my work session and the master edit of my scene, try out different takes and finesse the cut. Once I'm happy, I can package the entire edit and send it to editorial and other departments even, along with the source files if they want to faithfully use my camera work and 3D layout in whatever pipeline they end up using. It's been a huge honor and an incredible journey to be alongside Maciej, learning and helping him test and develop Vision as the first guinea pig tester and contributor, and I feel great that I've been able to fully embrace it as part of my professional work every day.
So Vision is not ready, but it's gonna be available to anyone interested in the summer 2024. And there is still stuff to do. We have like an entire roadmap of things that we really want to expand upon. So I think like everyone else who uses Grease Pencil and Blender, we are really waiting for Grease Pencil 3 to be out, including the Python, API, so we can start integrating everything with Grease Pencil 3 when it's out. So that's a big one for us. Unreal Engine integration. So, the idea for Vision is that it's like a pre-production kind of a tool set, but we want to have basically a set of tools that will export stuff from Blender in a form of shots. So you can send that stuff to Unreal. You can actually stay in Blender, but kind of have like automatically that structure for like animators. So it's not like everything is like one Blender file anymore. We have a bunch of cool ideas how to integrate Krita. So you can very easily switch back and forth from Blender to Krita when you actually do your storyboarding work, and then use what you do in Krita as image planes, kind of for storyboards as well. Some UI enhancements. There's a lot of stuff that I want to, improve. For example, like right now I cannot do custom icons on those little buttons that you have seen. Oh, by the way, if we could get the Python API, that option to do the custom icons, that would be amazing. There's also like a bunch of stuff that is about performance, because when you start putting stuff in one scene for so many different shots, the scenes get a little bit bigger. So we want to integrate like caching, like Blender Studio actually did before on one of their projects. So we want to have that very fast and easy to use, and some other performance features. So there's that list is it's like a rabbit hole. Once you start doing this, the list never ends. But again, it's gonna be available in a few months. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can go over here. And with that, I would like to thank you so much. Thank you.